And I bought this back attachment, and with that I got this grapple so I can move logs. And then this is the trailer that we use for mostly everything around here. But it's not really great for anything, especially not moving logs. So what I thought to do now is to build a forestry trailer, or a log trailer, or whatever you want to call it. And I don't want to spend much money on it, so I've been looking around here, and I think I've found everything that we need. So let's go and get some material. And we got a couple of I-beams laying here under these pipes. We just have to move those out of the way and try to get them out there. So it's just the next day, but it's snowing. And I like to just throw these on a trailer and hook it up to the tractor and then just drive it around the house. But I don't have a hitch on the tractor right now. But I think I got another idea that might work. So we got these I-beams in here, and that actually worked out pretty well with it. Driving them like that with a tractor. The only thing is that they did stick out quite far behind the tractor, so when you turned, even just a little bit, these moved in the back, they moved quite a lot, so you kind of had to be careful so you didn't hit anything. But and this is kind of how I'm thinking to build this thing. So one beam like that, another beam maybe like that, and then we'll just put 1, 2, 3, 4 across like that. It's not very good drawing here. And we'll just put a pipe on either end like that, sticking up, and then a couple pieces out here, and then just a hook out there, and just an axle somewhere. Some tires, kind of. It's not pretty drawing, but I think you get an idea what we're gonna do here. I'm thinking this is gonna be 3 meters long by, I'm not 100% sure, but like 1.7 meters wide. And these are 6 meters long, so let's just start with cutting one in the middle. And I'm gonna choose that one because that one got a little cutout in it, so yeah, let's just start with cutting this one in half and cutting this other one up to 170 long pieces. And I will just get 3 out of this one, and then it will be like an 80 centimeter piece left. And I need 4, so I'll have to use something else for one piece. There we go. So it doesn't need to be a big puddle here. So we got 3 meters right here, but because the I-beam is wet, can't mark on it, so let's make it a little drier. Try it. And I don't know if you can see the mark, but the mark is right there. I'll just measure from the other end, and there it is 3 meters 6 centimeters. So then we'll just mark 3 meters 3 centimeters from the other end, and then they should be exactly the same length. And it's kind of hard to mark in between here with a big square, so I just got a little piece of wood that is hopefully fairly square, where at the end is cut square there. That should work. So just kind of got this laid out here, kind of like how it's going to be put together. And then I just kind of started thinking, well, isn't this going to end up being quite a big trailer? And well, yeah, when you're drawing and kind of measuring, it kind of feels a lot smaller than it actually will end up being, or it will end up being a lot larger than you think it will be. And yeah, this is ending up being quite large. So I've just been figuring here for quite a while how much smaller I'm gonna make it. And just between I think between these pins right there, because we will have two pipes going up on either side, and I kind of just put those pieces of wood there so you can kind of see what it looks like. And I think that will look a lot better than having it the full width. That's just, I think the dimensions maybe was good before, but it would just end up being kind of a little bit too large trailer. I mean, it would work, but it would just be, I think it would be better having it a little smaller. So just thinking cutting 20 or 25 centimeters off of these. And then also these on the length, I'm gonna end up making it a little bit shorter. So like 40 centimeters cut off the length. Sadly, I didn't figure this out before I cut anything, but it is what it is. So we're just gonna take the pieces we cut off and that piece and make one piece for right there. And well, it will be good enough. Just welding some pieces together to make one. That will be good enough. And I just went ahead and got this whole thing leveled up, and that's because the floor is not perfectly flat, and if I weld this thing together on the floor, it's probably going to end up being some twist in this whole thing, and we don't want that, so just level it up and then it should be nice and flat and straight when it's all welded together. Just gonna make sure this is 70 mil or 70 centimeters, 700 mil right there. Oh, that's not too bad. Just gonna have to bump it that way a little bit. Just like that. And this is close enough for what we're doing here. Now it will be 86 centimeters between each one. It's gonna be 84, not 86. If my math is right, at least. That seems a lot better. Just to mark it on the other side. So, got these put on, you just center it up, and then we just have to weld these two pieces together. There, I forgot to grind that. But let's start with welding these together so I don't end up kicking that around. And I don't know how well you can see the size difference or anything, but I'm a lot happy with this size, cutting it down a little bit. I think that turned out much better. So I think that turned out pretty good. Now look at this. It's perfectly flat. The only thing it wasn't great is that I had to join this piece together, but well, it's nothing else than aesthetically. I mean, it should be plenty strong enough, and yeah, should be good. And now I have just welded on the sides here. I want to weld underneath too, but it's a lot easier to just flip it over to do that. But before we flip it over, I want to weld some pipes on the end here, just because now it is level, so I think it will be easier to get them perfectly straight up and down, because then I can just use the level and make sure it's. So let's go and get some pipes. So I could just take these pipes, weld them on, so they're sticking straight up like that. That would be nice and easy, but I think it would be more useful to be able to remove the pipes and have it just a flat trailer. I think that would come in pretty handy too. So what I was thinking is, these pipes fit pretty good inside this pipe. So I'm just thinking cut some shorter pieces of that pipe and weld them onto here, and then just cut some pieces of this, and then you can just stick them into this pipe and just put a little pin through it to lock these in place. And then you could just remove them, and you can have your flatbed trailer, and you can also have a timber trailer, which I think will be pretty nice. And I still have to cut that off, so let's just start getting these cut off, and then just cut up 8 pieces of that, which I think will make it 20 centimeters long, and then it will go down like that much. got 8 pieces of this 60 mil pipe, 20 mil, 200 mil long, and it's kind of hard to cut a pipe exactly square because you can't use a square and draw a line. And what you can do is just to put a tape around like this. Make sure to pull it square, and then you just cut off to that line, and should be square. So I just cut 2 pieces as pipe, and then I thought, well, maybe I should check that it actually fits. And well, it fits, but it's way too loose. So I thought, why is that? And then I measured it. This pipe is not 60 as I thought, it's 65. So it's 5 mil too big. But then I just went out and looked again, and I found another pipe, and that was 60, and you know, it's not much difference. So I just thought the oil was 60, but apparently some were 65. So I just got a 60 pipe instead, and well, let's just cut 8 pieces out of that instead. So I got all these pieces cleaned up a bit, and sadly they are galvanized. That's not super nice to weld, but well, not much to do about that. So we're just gonna weld that like that, and I know it will be a little gap here, and well, I could cut this out, but then I have to cut this whole, this part, whatever that's called, with the I-beam, and that just seems like way more work than then just cutting a couple little pieces and just filling this gap in. I think that will be the easiest anyway. So yeah, let's just get this welded on there. And now when this is leveled up, you can just use a level and make sure it's right that way, and also this way. So we finally got all this welded up, and I just moved some stuff out of the way here. Because now it's time to flip this thing over, and I don't know what the easiest way is to do that, but I'm just gonna take the tractor and just drag it outside and try to flip it over and get it back inside. Because it's a lot easier to weld these welds when it's the other way, and some other stuff too, so. So that did actually work out pretty good. Didn't really have any plan, but and the measurement in here was like the exact same as this, so they fit really well in there, and I could just lift it up as you saw. But yeah, now it's just to weld all this up, and also on the underside right there. So I got all that welded up around all those, and then I just went around and welded all this up. It's not pretty, but should be strong enough. And it was definitely no fun doing that, and it didn't make it any more fun that it was galvanized. But yeah, it's done now. So now we can get on to the tang, or I think that's at least what it's called, or something like that. And for that, I'm gonna use that piece of square tubing and that one. Then just put that out like that, one on either side. And first I thought to put them just on here and on that beam in there, then go out. But if my math is right, that will end up being too high up. So what I think is better is to put these two pieces of beam here, like that, and then just put these on top of that and these. And I think that will get a better height. And I just forgot to say, I have gotten this all leveled up. And that is, I first thought to not do it, but then I thought maybe this whole frame is twisted. And then I go in and weld this stuff on and some other stuff. Maybe it's not gonna flex as much. So maybe it will stay kind of twisted. And I didn't want that, so I just got it leveled up. And just as a precaution, kind of, I don't know if it was necessary, but at least it's not gonna be twisted now. And this is just cleaned up here, so let's just go and get this tack together at least. So, got that welded in place. And it's not the prettiest job in the world, but it's not finished welded either. Because I think it's easy to just flip this over and weld it, because if not I will be welding kind of underneath and that's just a pain. So I will clean that up a bit and, well, I think it will turn out pretty good anyway. It was kind of a pain welding here because it was a big gap there, but should be good enough. Now we can get onto these square tubings here. And then this is what I'm gonna use for the hook. So that's just gonna be put out here somewhere. And then we just have to make sure that this square tubings goes the right angles. So this ends up being in the center of the trailer and not offset or anything. Just got that cleaned up good enough. And then I got a 2x6 or something like that. That is really straight. At least it's straight enough for what we are doing here. So look at that, clamped down the exact middle of the trailer. And I'll show you what we're gonna use that for. And I'm just gonna have to put a little piece here to fill in that gap. And then it's just to make sure that it's absolutely perfectly centered. Doesn't need to be absolutely perfect, but really close. I'm gonna put it on this side. So just got a little stand here or whatever, and also I double checked the board. I should probably just use the piece of square tubing to start with, but yeah, the board looks pretty straight, so we'll just use that. And now we can just take these square tubings and just put them, well, put them in place. And then they are supported in this end by this. Now it was just kind of stupid because I forgot to draw a line before I put the board there, so they would end in the same place. But I have to figure out something there. And I think that looks pretty good like that. And now we can just measure, so these are the same distance on either side there. And then that. And then also that this fits in the center there. And if they are the same distance on either side from the board, this hook should end up in the center of the trailer. And I hope that made sense, but I think it should end up in the center anyway. So I did go ahead and get a square under there, so just checked from that edge to the square and from that edge to the square, but that wasn't really the same. So it will be from that little mark there. And then I just measured back here, and that turned out to be 85 centimeters. And I just made the same on the other side. Then here, it's gonna be around 13 millimeters. It's not, that's a little more. Doesn't need to be that exact because I can. This is obviously a little flexible, so it shouldn't be a problem making this thing fit in there, even if it's a little tight or loose. I think it's just to get these welded in place now. So I don't think that's gonna go anywhere, even if it's not fully welded. And I'm gonna wait a bit before welding it, because if I just go and get this welded up, the weld is just gonna pull this whole piece that way, and we don't want that. So before we do that, let's just get some pieces to connect these. I think probably a square tubing right here, and then I'm gonna continue up with a piece of flat bar here. Just another piece of 10 centimeter flat bar up here, and then I will connect these and make it nice and strong, and also a little piece here, and then get that hook welded on the end there. So just got that, well, a little more than tacked on there, but probably would be strong enough like that. But I'm always gonna weld it more. But I'm gonna wait with that. So we got all that welded up there, or actually maybe not everything, but most of it. So we can call that done for now. Then I did think about welding a couple little triangles in like that. And that was mostly because when I lifted up here before, it had just a lot of flex, or the whole frame could just flex a lot. So I could lift this up, I don't know, 10 centimeters maybe before any of the other corners started to lift up. But now I can lift it like 2 centimeters. So it got a lot stiffer after welding that stuff in the front. So what I'm thinking is, at least we're gonna start with this and just weld in a couple pieces right here. And well, a little flex doesn't matter, but it probably doesn't want a whole ton. So, but let's just start with getting a couple pieces here. And I think that will make it a lot stiffer. Instead of this flat bar isn't wide enough here, so just gonna have to get something else. I think it might be two big enough pieces out of this. those welded on there. Did not weld this side. For the same reason that I think it's easier to just flip it over and weld it, because if not it will be quite underneath. So, and I did check, and it maybe is a little less flex in the frame, but it's not much. But I don't know if it even matters. I don't think so. So I'm just gonna not weld any triangles there, mostly because it's pain grinding everything so you can weld it, and it's really not, I mean, it's not that hard to add some later if I feel like I want to do that. So I'm not gonna do that. And then there's a little more welding there and a pile of grinding to clean some stuff up. And well, I don't think that's interesting, so I'll spare you that. Here we have to weld these together. And I also think we're gonna trim these to make a little angle on that. So, got all that welded up there. And it's probably a little overkill welding the whole way there. But I'm not great at welding, so I kind of just take an opportunity like this. Just run some bead and kind of training a little bit, trying to get better. But yeah, and also it's kind of fun to weld, so yeah. So those welds didn't turn out any nice at all. I don't know why, but it just didn't want to weld on the sides here, but doesn't matter. It's just there for, well, looks. It's not that pretty, but no, but what I mean is just that it's not structural, so it doesn't really matter that much. But that is finished now, and I think pretty much everything here is also, well, not 100% finished, but pretty much. But now it's time to get some wheels on this thing, so let's go and get some wheels and axles. I thought to use some of these tires, but they're all out of air, so that's not good. So that's one axle, but then I can put an axle there or there. I cannot put it in the middle where I want it, because then that tire would hit the beam here, and that's because in here is a little too far back, there is a little too far forward. So, and then also those axles are just from a car, or at least the ends are from just an old car, which means they aren't that very strong, they are kind of weak. So what I think I'm gonna do is just to put one there and one there, so we'll have two. And the best way to put two axles is to have a bogie, so both tires have one pivot in the middle, so you have a pivot right there, and then you have some beams going out, kind of, and then you put a tire here and here, so this whole thing can just pivot when you're going over obstacles. And that's the best way to do it, but that's kind of a lot of work, and I don't really feel like doing that. So I'm just gonna put two fixed axles, one there and one there, and well, that won't be great, but I think that should work. But anyway, let's go and get another axle. And for the second axle here, my grandparents has this old trailer standing here that has kind of the same axle that we already have welded to it. So let's just see if we can get this dragged out. It's kind of into these trees here a little bit, but see if we can get that dragged out and also throw off all this junk. And it's just all kinds of junk on this trailer, so what I thought to do is just to flip it to get it all off. And then I just have to clean that up later. I hope you saw that. I kind of missed it with the camera maybe, but yeah. Okay, I didn't. I was kind of scared that I would bend this rim flipping it like that, but seems to be pretty straight still. And let's see here. I don't know how this really is secured, but yeah. And here you can see the axle. Here's just a pipe, but yeah, I think that'll work still. So I'm not sure. I think it's just bolted on here. But I don't think I actually need to move it anymore. It ended up quite perfect like this, so I'm just gonna go ahead and get the angle grinder, and I think we can just cut this off and should be good enough. Pry a little bit on it. And these tires are pretty impressive. This trailer probably been standing here for 20 years or something. Okay, maybe not 20, 10 years. I don't know, a long time, and they are still, it's still air in the tires. So I'm just thinking to kind of put these like that. I'll just kind of put them there, but I think that looks pretty good, except that they are way too wide. So we'll have to narrow them down a little bit, but yeah. But let's start with getting all these pieces cut off, because we don't need them anymore. And I think it will be strong enough when we're having two, even if they probably are a little on the weak side, but yeah. Anyway, let's get cutting. And I thought to get this whole trailer built in one video, but I think that's just gonna turn out to be a little too long of a video then. So I'm gonna end it here, and we're just gonna continue in part 2. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.